It's live.
All right, welcome to, what episode is it, Johnny? Episode 4 of the Pilsen podcast. Today we got a lot of guest speakers, and one of our special guest speakers is Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez from the 25th Ward. And today's episode is sponsored by Cynthia's Toy Drive, going down today at Radius in Pilsen. And I want to have Kelly talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want everybody to introduce themselves. So my name is Ruben. They call me Infamous. My co-host, Johnny. You want to introduce yourself, Johnny? And then give everybody a chance.
Yeah. My name is Johnny. Here with Ruben. Let's introduce our guests. Go ahead, Ruben.
All right. The first guest, I'm gonna introduce Kelly. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, guys.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen so they can see everybody's face. All right, Alderman, do you want to introduce yourself?
Byron Sigcho Lopez, and I invited, since you got me on Sunday, I invited my wife to join us, so I'll get to spend a little bit of time together. So
sounds good. Family time. Let me see who else. Rosa, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Rosa Esquivel. Pilsen resident. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Teresa, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Contreras, Pilsen resident and organizer.
All right. Ugo?
Hi there, everybody. My name is Ugo Okere. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a Pilsen resident and the chair of the 25th Ward IPO. Thank you for having me.
All right. Javier?
Which Javier?
Pilsen Pod, Javier. I'm gonna call you Javier. All right, go ahead, Javier. Introduce yourself.
Sorry, guys, I had it on mute. Sorry, Javier Cervantes here with our Pilsen Pod, just to discuss a little bit about our new podcast. Well, we had it actually for a while though, but just discussing how we're revamping it now with Pilsen Arts and Community House. So thanks for having me.
All right, and I believe we're supposed to have Erica join us in a bit, but any of the guest speakers want to introduce themselves? Javi number 2.
Everybody, my name's Javier. I'm from Pilsen, right here fighting for Pilsen too.
All right, anybody else want to introduce themselves? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vicky Lugo, member of the Coalition to Stop the Landmark.
All right, anybody else? So we can kick it off. Going once, going twice. All right. All right. So first, I want to tell you about our sponsor of today. Let me share the screen one more time. Give me a second. All right, Kelly, do you want to talk to them about the event while I post the flyer on the screen?
Sure. So we're doing a toy drive in Pilsen at Radius December 12th, which is next Saturday. And it's hosted by freestyle singer Cynthia. And it basically how it's gonna be is you're gonna drive up to Radius, drop off your toy donations between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. and Cynthia will be the one to kind of greet you, take your gifts and everything else. All the toy donations will be donated to the Resurrection Project in Pilsen, which is low-income families. There's about 83 kids there that we're helping out. And actually the very next day on Sunday, Cynthia is going to the Resurrection Project to personally hand them to the kids. Also, Lurie Children's Hospital, which has 125 beds, will be donating to, and then private families that have reached out to us that need help this year. Again, that's going to be at Radius, which is 640 West Cermak in Pilsen. and it's outside. We ask that you still wear your mask. We'll all wear a mask. You just drive up and drop off the toys. You can take a quick picture with Cynthia and then drive off, basically. We'll also have hot cocoa and cookies for everybody, which is also going to be donated by a Pilsen bakery. One of the bakers is Ali Tovar, I think it is. And then we also have a bunch of people pitching in and sponsoring to help us with everything. Again, it's from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. with Cynthia at Radius.
All right, and
go ahead.
well, I'll try to share the flyer like every time somebody's not talking, just so they can see the details in case like they want to know more about it.
Okay.
So I'm just waiting for so I could be able to screen share because it's not letting me right now. So I could begin the Q&A with.
I can screen share.
All right. Can you go to the questions, like where it says all the questions that that people want to ask the alderman, so we can start with the top one? So real quick, I just want to let our viewers know that the Pilsen landmark decision did not pass, and but sadly the demolition freeze ordinance did not pass either, and we'll talk about that in a little bit with the alderman, so he could kind of tell us more about it. But first, we're gonna do a Q&A that we ask people from our Pilsen Chicago group to ask him, and we'll let the alderman answer each question one at a time. And we verified most of the people that asked the questions to make sure that's their real name on Facebook. There's like at least one of them that didn't use his real name. And I asked him what his real name was, but he chooses to remain anonymous. But instead of putting him on blast, I'll just let you know that some of those, like one of the people that asked a lot of questions did not, that's not his real name, just so you know. So you never know, like, what kind of agenda people have or reasons they have, but, you know, I respect that. That's their privacy. They want to remain anonymous. That's cool. Just put in the search bar, Alderman, and it comes out right away. Right there in the top, you just passed it. Right there where it says, I plan to interview. All right, Alderman, so the first question is from Leonardo Quintero. He says, what have you done to increase youth preventive services within the community? And well, let's start with that one first. Sounds like a 2-question in one.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, this is since I got in office, we have prioritized the use of violence prevention programs and interrupters in our community. So since last year, we have been pushing the administration. As you know, the Lightfoot administration have not included the Pilsen community since last year in the violence prevention program allocation. So we went to the state and we actually requested, and I'm extremely thankful that at the state level, Senator Munoz actually was responsive to our request. So there was at least half $500,000 that was allocated for this purpose. Right now, of course, we have to work with the state, and given the fiscal situation, we're working in the release of those funds. At least half of that is our hope to be directly channeled to violence prevention programs. We have been working with SHINE, which is a great program from St. Paul University. Dre, who is one of the interrupters who came from New Life, and he's been working with us since then for over a year. We also been working with Build Chicago. That is another one of these second chance programs that we believe is the way to go to address and prevent violence in the first place. So unfortunately, the city has not allocated enough funding as it should. In fact, the mayor and I think among the different caucuses, our goal was to make sure that we push for $50 million for violence prevention programs. That was something that we stood strong. The mayor only decided after a lot of maneuvering to allocate $36 million, and our goal was to allocate $50 million, so at least each ward will receive an average of $1 million, depending on the situation more. Unfortunately, we are kind of working with the state level and with the county. So I know Commissioner Naya is also looking into initiatives. These are priority. And I think, again, that's something that the city should be prioritizing more as we see the budgets inflated for CPD, police misconduct cases, and so forth. And we believe that these programs not only work, but makes our community safer. So we've been advocating for these programs since day one.
Okay, and what about his second question? Did you answer that one yet? Are you working on any second chance programs?
Yeah, as I said, I think we're working. I mentioned a few that we're working with, like Shine is our main program, and we want to make sure that that receives a lot of the funding because they're Pilsen based. But there's also a few other supported programs like Build Chicago New Life.
Okay, and this next question is from me actually. What are your goals as alderman?
So one of the key goals that we set up is that we wanted to root out corruption from our administration. It is clear that corruption was the biggest problem, and it's going to continue to be the big problem in our community for as long as developers try to fund and have their representative and not the representative of the people. Thanks to the support of the community members, and because we listened to what our constituents said, small businesses and residents, we defeated the landmark. The landmark was going to be a master plan. So one of our plans is to make sure that we at all times, we want to make sure that we listen to our So I got muted by mistake. So that, again, we don't have the same practices of the past, right? Where there's a few nonprofits and the aldermen benefited by the decisions while the community gets displaced. So again, the guidelines have been clear. We want to make sure that we have conscious development and we make affordable housing a priority. We have set a goal of at least 250 units of affordable housing in the first 4 years. Because of this regulation of big development that before was done through the campaign contributions, a pay-to-play culture that cost the community dearly. And there's a few of them and a few others who continue to try to maintain these practices. We, through this community-driven zoning process, we already have created 80 units of affordable housing in the short time that we have in office, 18 months. But we believe that these practices will help us hold developers accountable, create affordable housing, and make sure that we have conscious development in our community, and we stop this kind of impositions from the mayor and the Department of Planning, where we, the people of our community, are the ones deciding what's best for us. We do this in public meetings, and we do make sure that we hold our office accountable and the developers, and make sure that the city of Chicago is accountable to the people of this, in this case, Pilsen, and every community of the 25th ward. Another goal that we have that is key is to make sure that we have a change in the practices that we have, for instance, on the industrial corridor. The city continues to put polluters in our community. We continue to see projects that are impacting and putting the public health of our residents at risk. We are making sure that we're holding these permits on hold. We want to make sure that we reject this, and we want to make sure that there's legislation. So we move towards a greener corridor and greener jobs and jobs that are good and sustainable for our community. We also want to make sure that we restructure our small business sector. For a long time, we operated almost without a chamber of commerce, here in Pilsen in particular. Now we're collaborating with the chambers in Chinatown, the chambers in West Loop, because there's a lot to learn. We're going to restructure to make sure that small businesses are being represented well, and the city is subsidizing the people in need, and not those who were in the past who had clout or have connections at the expense of those small businesses that were closing down. Now, and I think, for instance, there's been a few stores that have been benefiting from programs like this BIF program, which is TIF funding that's supposed to go to small businesses who are in need. And in the past, we continue to fund people who had money, corporations like Target, instead of funding our small businesses. We also want to make sure that we strengthen our schools, or public schools. We have, since day one, making sure that we put our schools at the forefront. As an example, Whittier, and we should be very proud of this, Whittier Elementary is going to be the first dual language school in the south side of Chicago. We're going to be the first school. We've been fighting for that for a long time. Now it is a reality, and now we have a funding of a program for STEM, among other things that we're doing at Smith and other school, including Juarez, and I'm glad that you have now local school council representatives that are going to be working hand in hand and not, with any kind of agendas other than the best interest and the education of our children and the best interest of our families. Those are some of the goals that we have set up. But of course, nothing happens if we don't have public elected officials that listen to the community and not listen to a special interest group. Until a few years ago, that was unfortunately the reality. But these are new days. The landmark designation is a big victory that has helped us change course, a course that will help the people of Pilsen decide and make sure that we have self-determination.
Hey, Ruben, I'm gonna skip the question by Troy.
I want him to answer all of them, but I'm like, because I'm pretty sure most of the questions like already got answered right now in like the first two. So I'm just gonna try to go, let him answer the top three, like as long as he wants, and then on the other questions we'll just try to limit it to 30 seconds to a minute responses. So the next question is by Chris Anthony. How can we build a larger progressive coalition in the city council?
Well, first is important participating, right? I think in our community, we have, I think, an example across the city of what grassroots organizing does. We have people in the community organizing. We have people who put in people in office who are not there to benefit themselves or special interest groups, but people who represent the best interests of the community. That's fundamental to build a coalition. And I think that there are changes in other wards. We are making great progress. And I think in other wards, we see the same change. We have at least a coalition of people of at least 9 to 10 aldermen who consistently vote in the best interest of the community. We have to grow that base. We need more people, more aldermen who legislate in the best interest of their constituents and not for their pockets, and not because the mayor is threatening them, but because they need to advocate for the most vulnerable, especially in the middle of a pandemic. It is critical that we put the interests of our residents at first, and we are building coalition with those aldermen. I'm very proud to see, at least, from the Democratic Socialists of America, that we have a strong advocacy plan to make sure that we advocate for working people, and we're working with other organizations like United Working Families. There's at least 10 aldermen part of this coalition, and it's growing. So we can be the example, so we get other people in other wards to participate. And I hope that this coalition, and I expect that this coalition is going to keep growing, because I think the need is dire.
And people should join their IPOs in their communities, independent political organizations. That's where you can really make an influence.
I agree. Let me see. So the next question that Johnny didn't kind of want me to ask you, but I'm gonna ask you for it. So Troy Hernandez asks, has he tried offering Target gift cards to get support from the mayor? And
well, what I'll say, that I think that, and that's a no, but I think is critical that to understand that what was stated here was that that we needed to have our own voice, and I always listen to the people of my community. Proud to stand with what the community wanted, which is not property taxes. People did not want more property taxes. People did not agree with having fees, with what people are going to be charged when they go over the speed limit for 6 miles per hour. I mean, this kind of fees are this is not about safety. It has become about revenue and putting more burden on the working class. I'm very proud to stand with the people of the community, and I'm not going to tolerate any threats from the mayor, because I'm standing up strong for the people of our community.
All right. Let me see. I might give her one for Christmas, to be honest, because I'm doing a protest on New Year's Eve, so hopefully she's on my good side. For Christmas, not bribery, right?
She's not.
So Anthony Sutar says, what is he doing to stop these $1 million condo buildings from being up all over Pilsen?
Oh, we've done quite a bit. I mean, if we haven't done by now, I mean, St. Adalbert will be already in the hands of a developer, for instance, just to give you a few. Holy Trinity, where we have now a food pantry that we work, and thank you, and I want to give kudos to Dr. Evelyn Figueroa for working with us to make sure that we are using these spaces in the best interest of our community. Those spaces will be now in the hands of developers if we haven't taken a strong stance. We also have to make sure that to the developers that come into our community, that we hold them accountable. I do not accept a penny from developers that in the past used to buy their way into our community. And now I know some of them are very bitter about that because they don't have a puppet, but then now we have a representative that is listening to our communities. I do think it's important now that we have more legislation That's what we're pushing for, a deconversion ordinance. I think, and I can be talking, I think at some point there's a question around that. We have a deconversion ordinance, which is gonna make it difficult for developers to demolish homes and then build mansions and luxury housing. We're gonna make sure that we have a legislation that we will make sure that they have to come in front of our zoning committee to request for zoning, so the community has a public meeting. And we have seen that many of you have participated in our public meetings when we can ask questions, we can hold them accountable and get more benefits from the community. Because of these public meetings, we have been able to increase more affordable housing in our communities. That is the reason why we propose the demolition freeze, which we're very close to pass. But now you know exactly who the mayor works for. The mayor and a lot of the people in those committees work for developers, and they work for the real estate industry. And that's why we need people to come and support the IPO and other organizations, so that we have decisions to help protect the social fabric in our community, which is not only buildings, but the people of the community.
It's critical for people to understand how to look at their politicians and see if they're authentically working for the people of the community, or if they're working for the people who are big donors and that type of thing. And you can, the more you follow politics, the more you're involved with your IPO, the more you're practicing this, the more you can have an analysis that honestly reflects, you can analyze for yourself, like who's working for me, who's working for developers, who's listening to me, who's responding to me. Pay attention to actions, don't pay attention to words.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing I'll say, we have already a plan, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the Affordable Requirement Ordinance Task Force. We'll be demanding 30% set aside from developers despite the big objections from the administration. We have a referendum that is a non-binding referendum, and as a co-chair, I will be supporting that to make sure that we continue holding developers accountable.
All right, and just to make sure we do answer all the questions, let me continue with the next one. Johnny, can you scroll down a little bit more? So the question is from Ed Marin. Does he support Donald Trump?
No, absolutely not.
All right. And the next question is actually from Tisha Reyes. She says, how do we bring back Pilsen the way it was?
That's a great question. And I think, as we've seen, if we would have allowed the landmark, and I tell you that there's a few of us who have been very clear to make sure that we don't bring more luxury housing, we don't need more mansions, what we need is affordable housing. And the way for us to preserve the social fabric of our community is by regulating big development, not allowing churches to become luxury condos, not allowing or schools to become luxury condos, but to make sure that we have a plan to transform these spaces. So if the church is no longer functioning, that we have a food pantry, that we have an early childhood site, that we convert them into places that is still serving our community. And when we bring affordable housing, it is important that we allow the people in our communities to have a place in the place that they call home. We also need to make sure that we don't allow developers to continue to evict. There's thousands of developers. There's the thousands of evictions that developers have filed despite the empty pledges that they're saying that they're going to work with the tenants, that they're going to help people in the community. Unfortunately, we don't work with pledges. We work with legislation. So another thing that we need to push is to make sure that we, and I've been one of the sponsors of this ordinance, which is just cause for eviction. We also need to help our homeowners, the homeowners who are struggling right now, who need the real relief. We don't need to subsidize developers. We need to subsidize the people, small businesses and homeowners. We have a plan with the county, and I'm glad Commissioner Naya has made that a priority to make sure that we subsidize those small businesses who are struggling and those homeowners who are helping their tenants and they're giving relief. We should helping them who are helping people and keeping the units affordable. So there is a way for us to keep our communities, to keep the social fabric, but it wasn't the city's plan was going to work. It's our plan. And for that, we need the participation of all of you to make sure that we have a community-driven process and a vision of a plan that where we are included and we are heard. We need to be part of that plan. The landmark and that defeat was critical so that we change courses. And now we need to make sure that we bring more affordable housing, that we regulate big development and not like in the past, allow developers to pay their way into the community, that we support small businesses, those who are struggling, that we can build a strong local economy that is built by the people in the community who has been here for a long time. We are a beautiful community that is internationally known, and we have to make sure that we protect that and we preserve that with policies.
All right, and we got a couple more questions, so I'm just gonna try to like answer them real quick. Some of them are from Mark Edward. Do you consider it good practice to make up rumors about someone, e.g., that they're a developer who is aligned with the former alderman?
I'm not so sure what is the question, what's the rumor. But I'll tell you that I'm a straight shooter. When I speak in public, and I'm not afraid of the mayor. I'm not afraid of speaking what's right for our community. So I'm not the one who makes rumors. I'm not the one who who is out there creating things behind doors. I like to be very upfront. So if someone has a question and tell me more information at any time, at any point, I'm always opening my office work nights on Tuesdays night from 3 to 7 p.m.
All right. Next question is from Mark Edward again. Why are critics of your public office blocked from commenting on social media? Are we not allowed to express our First Amendment rights?
Again, I'm not sure what is the censure that he looks at it. I mean, we of course want to. I mean, I'm here responding directly to the questions, and of course we want to make sure that that we want more feedback from our community.
All right. Next question is by David Schultz. Johnny, can you put it up a little? Oh, there you go. What is your plan to ensure that the remap of Chicago's wards respects communities versus aldermanic preservation?
Well, I've been very clear, and I've been supportive since day one, and the Mayor Lightfoot was supportive of this as well, of the independent mapping process when we actually discussed this and what's best for our communities, and like you said, and not for politicians or the mayor. So I support that. I think that there's many groups working on this as an independent mapping process, which is inherently a community-driven process. So I'm fully supportive of that.
All right, and I'm actually getting a couple questions in the chat, so I'm gonna try to wrap these up from the poll. Does Troy Hernandez like Gloria's tacos? Asks Javier.
That's a good question for him. I don't know.
I'm just being silly. Don't mind that one.
All right. So Anthony Sutar says, what can you do to bring more money to our school here in the 25th ward? Our schools need updated technology, updated the building. I think you kind of like made a reference to that in the earlier response, but you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I can give you more details because it is indeed a great question. In fact, Whittier Elementary, just to give you an example, not only received the dual language programs, but the dual language designation, but also a grant for a STEM program that is, is going to be a multi-million-dollar investment to make sure that we also have opportunities for kids for top technology. Juarez now is going to be partnering with UIC on another project to make sure that we bring more resources to our community. But again, the other thing that is important for us to bring more resources is to have an elected representative school board. It is fundamental for us to make sure that we have more voices, more more fairness and equity comes from representation. Unfortunately, the mayor has done the exact same thing as the previous administration. When if this becomes a political issue, they'll decide to split their resources based on political agendas and not based on equity, not based on what's fair and right for communities. But I tell you that indeed we need to improve our infrastructure. We got to bring more programming for our kids. We already started with a few schools. And also in terms of infrastructure, I also got to say, Senator Munoz put a significant bill for infrastructure, especially around Juarez, that our kids didn't even have locker rooms for a while, locker rooms that were really a shame. Now that is going to be something that we are investing to make sure that we bring sports, that we bring investment to our communities. It was a shame that we could not even use our own facilities because they were not up to code. Now we're going to have a capital improvement plan that is going to invest in that. Of course, there's a lot to be done, but again, I think that the need for an elected representative school board, so we have more representation in the Board of Education, and thus we can have more resources. But we have made that a top priority for us.
To get that fully elected representative school board, we need to pass a bill in the Senate. So we have to ask President Harmon to pass Senator Martwick's bill to get an elected representative school board. That's already passed the House. If it passes the Senate, then it's just for Pritzker to sign. And so we're very close if we fight for it.
All right, and let me see. So Mark Edward asks, how do you feel about having people demonstrate outside of your home, your former org, Lightfoot, Tunney, Osterman?
Well, I think that's a question for them. I can only respond for me, but if I have people that come to my house to protest, I will definitely.
Wasn't this the same person who asked about the First Amendment, right? I mean, sidewalks are public spaces. And so if you're a politician who's having demonstrations outside your ward, you need to talk to your constituents and see if those constituents are being reasonable with their requests. If, of course, like Lori Lightfoot has had MAGA people out demonstrate outside her home, of course those people are not reasonable. But she's also had mothers demonstrate outside her home for her not allocating enough money for violence prevention. Those people deserve to be heard. Her billionaire donors have a phone number to her office. Do any of us tax-paying residents of Chicago have a phone number to her office? No, they don't. So who does she work for? So if Lori Lightfoot's having daily protests outside her home, then it's time for her to come out and talk to her constituents, because she's clearly not being accessible enough for them to not have to demonstrate outside her home.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Oh, go ahead.
My
Go ahead.
answer is simply talk to your constituents, right, and discuss with them. I think that's the reason not to have people coming and feel that they have to come to your house or wherever they have to come because they feel that they're not listening to you. That's what, again, we have open or ward nights are open to everybody. We come here, we come to a chat where we can find people, whatever they need to find us. I think that's the best way for us to make sure that people feel that we're representing them and that we listen to their concerns.
All right, and let me see. I think we only got a few questions left. So Julie Brzezinski Rizzo says, what is he doing to help prevent all the gang violence and shootings?
Again, it comes down to violence prevention. I think that's what I voted against the budget. I do believe that we're failing our young people, we're failing our youth when we allowed the city of Chicago to pay $107 million for police misconduct cases, but we don't have enough money to fund our violence prevention programs that we just discussed early on. We have, the money is there, unfortunately goes to the wrong places. Mayor Lightfoot during her campaign, because the thing is, candidate Lightfoot and versus Mayor Lightfoot, when she was campaigning, she talked about police accountability to make sure that we prioritize budget to fund these kind of programs. Now in office, we're still waiting for a police accountability bill. We continue to see in this budget, just in last budget, another $90 million that was projected to pay for police misconduct. That's not the way that we build trust. That's not the way that we bring peace and justice to our communities. We need to invest in these programs to make sure that we prevent violence. We need to invest in education. We need to make sure that we invest in our schools. Mayor Lightfoot has also prioritized big luxury development. During her administration, despite her promise, he still allowed big developers like the 78 and Lincoln Yards to take $2.4 billion with a B dollars in TIF money. Those are money. That's money that can go to our schools. That can be to improve our infrastructure. That can come to improve the conditions in our schools and empower our youth and create employment opportunities. Yet we continue to give money to developers, to luxury developers that don't need the money, and also stop us from taxing them. We propose a tax for Amazon. There are other municipalities across the country who are doing this. As our small businesses are suffering and getting hurt, these corporations are profiting record numbers, and Mayor Lightfoot did not want to tax them. She stopped the discussion around an Amazon tax that had support from a lot of my colleagues, and we couldn't even have a debate. That's the way where we can generate revenue so that we can bring opportunities for young people. That's how we can make sure that we bring resources, improve our schools, and prevent violence. More policing is not going to help us get out, it's not going to address this issue. What we need is to make sure that we prevent young people from being, unemployed, for being without any opportunities. We strongly believe that the budget that was approved wasn't a budget that we deserve. That's why we voted against it, because we believe that we can do much better and we cannot continue to fail our young people. I think there's a way for us to address violence, but this is not the way.
All right, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the question of the hour, The next one is by me, actually. Who drafted the demolition freeze ordinance map, and why did they include the 11 ward? I mean, I kind of got an idea, but I want you to say it.
That's a great question. Again, a lot was said about it. So the reality is that the law department in the city drafted our ordinance because we cannot come out just with maps out of, we just don't do freezes everywhere or anywhere. It has to have a justification. That is goes again, the issue of the redistricting is going to be very key for us. That's why, the previous administration, changed the map. It makes it harder for us to organize when they gerrymander communities and they split you. We have to be very vigilant about what they want to do in our community. I think that it's very important that we look at this as a way for us to organize, because that was a simple ordinance. The redistricting, we had to use the redistricting of the Pilsen Historic District. We are already a historic district, so we had no choice but to use that map. In fact, and it was clear, in the meeting, I offered to amend it, and we had the right to amend the ordinance to exclude the 11th ward. But of course, the administration was opposed to a demolition freeze, so developers were up in arms complaining about that they are not able to do what they were doing before. But I tell you, don't worry about the fact that we are changing courses. That demolition freeze only was going to give us 6 months. We already had a plan that is ready for us to execute. We'll be introducing the deconversion ordinance in this city council next week. And we also have an ARO ordinance that is going to be introduced early 2021. All this does is make sure that we act quicker. But again, it shows the true colors of administration that sides with developers instead of siding with the people of Pilsen. But again, I tell you, that was an expected thing to do, but we are in conversations now with Alderman Thompson to discuss if he wants to be included or not. It's important that we consult with our colleagues nearby. But again, this is something that is secondary to our goal, because it's not with demolition freezes that we're going to address the issue, but with actual legislation. And I think that we're proposing a much more comprehensive approach, because we're talking about demolition fees. And I'm going to take my colleague Alderman Thompson and Alderman Osterman, who have said that they're going to work with us in these ordinances. So I think that we are still en route to make sure that we have a plan that works for our community.
All right, and just to make sure I give, because I know you got something to do at 8, and I want to make sure like some of the speakers that are tuned into our Zoom meeting, they could ask other questions that are not listed on the poll. So the next question, just try to limit the next few questions so we can wrap up the polls. I think it's only like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6. We'll try to like respond them in 20 seconds responses. So why did voters that supported Alex Acevedo not vote for you? Because I know he was the one that challenged you in a runoff election. So both of you were top two. Can you want to answer that?
Those are for those voters to answer, and hopefully, you know, once he got elected alderman, his job was to represent all the people, all the constituents of the ward, whether they voted or not, or who they voted for. And so hopefully in the next election, they'll see that he served them well.
Yeah, I think that's our job. I think it's key to remember, right? I think that there's at least one person who was not subpoenaed by the FBI. It would have been an embarrassment for us to have yet another alderman who was investigated. And I tell you, there are choices, leaving all the developers around us, have to make us think and look and judge our candidates based on the track record. I hope to earn the trust of the other 45% who did not vote for me. But I tell you that we got to govern with actions and not with words.
All right, and actually some of the questions that remain are questions you already answered that I like pretty much repasted. So I'm gonna ask you just the unique ones that remain. Justin Tucker asks, do you plan on cutting taxes across the board?
Well, I think we voted against the property tax increase. I don't believe those are regressive taxes. I believe in progressive taxation when corporations, the people who are making the money and the big developers, they're paying their fair share. So the people, City of Chicago, the hardest working people in the country that works day in and day out, and yet they cannot make ends meet, they cannot pay rent, they cannot pay bills, they cannot pay utilities. That's not acceptable. I think that there's a lot of people here, including our Mayor Lightfoot's best friend, Ken Griffin, who has spent $60 million so that he doesn't pay his fair share, so that we don't have fair taxes. So I do agree that we need to have progressive taxation, and Amazon and all these corporations need to pay their fair share so that not all the burden is again in the working people. I oppose regressive taxation.
All right, and I believe we only got like just one more unique question, because the other one about the CPS funds, you already pretty much answered that one. That was just a repeat that Anthony asks. The alley one, I'll save that one for last right now. You already answered the why did you run for alderman, pretty much the same question as what were your goals. You kind of explained it already. But do you want to elaborate before I start asking you the questions that they're asking right here in the Zoom meeting, so I could give everybody a chance to ask you directly?
Sure. In terms of the alley, come to our office. To Cesar, like he has a question about an alley, please contact our office. We'll be happy to look at your request and put it in the city. Why do I run for alderman? I think that's a key question. I think that is a key question that everybody who is running or thinking about running for alderman should answer. I run because I knew what was happening in front of us. The corruption, the displacement, thousands of our neighbors have been gone. I think all of us can attest to that. How many people have been evicted or lost their home in our community, how many small businesses were closing, and the silence of many who now are claiming that they are for the people. I mean, I think that's important that we see that, you know, our schools are almost closed. You know, we have very few people who are up in arms, but the community have always come. Those people, the residents, the people who only come out for the self-interest, they have always been there. And I think that was motivated me to run. You know, when we saw the fight again, you know, and we fortunately were able to keep it open. Youngman and Pilsen Academy, those two schools are doing well now. And for a while, they almost trying to, CPS and the previous administration tried to convince us that we needed to close them because they were underperforming, they're underutilized. The reality is that they wanted to close them because they wanted to make condos, as they wanted to do with the churches and so on. So it is very important that we discuss this as a community, and that's what I run for Alderman, because I did not see anyone else who had the interest of the people, but they all have their own self-interest.
All right, and so let's get to the, like, I'll send you I'll try to display the video so people can see how messed up Cesar Lopez alley is. But I'm pretty sure you already answered this question of what he could do about it to fix it. So Ugo, one of our guest speakers, got a question for you. Ugo, do you want to ask him?
I have a question. I'm sorry. What question did I have?
I don't know. It just says, can you jump in here?
Oh, no, about a previous question that was asked of Alderman Sigcho Lopez. It's not related anymore, so don't worry about it.
Okay, and we have a question from Christy Nelson. Well, there's actually a few. Christy, do you want to like rephrase your questions and ask them right now? She's still logged in?
Sure, yeah, I'm actually just curious. You know, I heard a bunch of different times that we were talking about affordable housing, and I was wondering exactly what does affordable housing mean? Like, who is, like, how, like, what are the requirements? What are, what's affordable housing? Who is that directed towards?
Mm-hmm. So, and I tell you, I think, thank you, Christine, for the question. I think affordable housing is right now under the definition of the city, when an apartment costs, in terms of rent, 60% of the average median income, right? So that's how this is defined as that. Many of our families, right, don't make that, you know, don't make the cut at 60%, right? I mean, just to put you an example, that will mean that a two-bedroom may be between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. That is yet not affordable for many families. You know, if a studio or a one bedroom is $800, $1,000, it still prices out a lot of families. We're talking about a lack of affordable housing and low income housing. We have both. So again, I think that we need to make sure that we create affordable housing that is affordable to the local income, you know, and that's what we've done. You know, right now when developers come in and they want to talk about, you know, zoning changes, we talk about, well, what is the affordable, what is your AMI? You know, we ask questions, is this going to truly be affordable?
Affordable median income is
right.
AMI.
The affordable, average median income, that's AMI, I'm sorry, AMI. So that's the formal definition. But again, I think the question I think you pose is key. We need to make sure that this is affordable and is truly affordable to the families, to the seniors, to the people with disabilities, to the people, the veterans. That we have a lot of people who are right now, unfortunately, unable to pay their rent, unable to pay their property taxes. We need to make sure that we bring those resources so it's truly affordable. Wages, I mean, we look at the last 19 years, there's no coincidence. 14,000 residents, mainly Latino residents, left the community. The property taxes went up fivefold, 500% in 18 years. It's impossible to keep up with those changes. We are just under downtown. Why? Because of corruption, because the pay to play, because there are those who want to profit. We need to make sure that we have these conversations with the public, with the community, so that we can create truly affordable housing. We can bring more affordable housing projects and also hold the developers accountable to make sure that they are having units that are affordable for veterans, for seniors, for families, a more family-oriented development, that we actually incentivize developers to make sure that they create affordable housing for families, family-oriented development. They give you a bunch of one bedrooms, a bunch of studios, and they said it's affordable. But what about our families? What about the seniors? What about the constituents who do not have that? And we also need to make sure that we hold the CHA accountable. the Chicago Housing Authority so that they're also creating affordable housing. They have a few $100 million in reserves that we need to make sure that they are invested with the purpose of creating more low-income housing as well. We need to do both, and the issue of housing is critical. We see with great concern the potential evictions and foreclosures if we don't act and we continue to allow developers and realtors to draw, or they are the ones who are drafting our laws. And we need to make sure that we are the ones who actually create legislation.
And to add to that, the Federal Housing Authority, HUD, Housing Urban Development, sets housing is affordable if you pay 30% of your income or less. If you're paying more than 30% of your income, then it makes it unsustainable, because if something happens to you, if you have a car accident or a medical problem, you're much more likely to fall behind on your costs and rent. So low-income housing that's offered by HUD will often have you move in and you pay 30% of whatever your income is, as long as you make below a certain income. Here in Chicago, if he's talking about affordable housing, the citywide percentage for affordable housing is 60% AMI, average median income. But we know in certain communities, the average income is much lower than 60% AMI for the city. So you can advocate for, if you're a developer coming in with 100 units and you want to give 20% affordable housing, when it's an open meeting that everyone can come to, then people can say, hey, well, 60% isn't enough for affordable for me and affordable for the neighbors in this community. So you should make it affordable for 30% AMI. Mm-hmm. So for people who make 30% of the average median income, who live perhaps in a community where the average wage in that neighborhood is lower. So that's when you have an elected official who works for you, they don't just say, hey, not affordable, get out of my face now. They're listening and saying, hey, I hear you that it's not affordable for you. Let's organize our community and fight to make sure that this developer hears us and gives us that 30% AMI so that we can have more families, so that they can't close our schools, because now we just had 20 units of affordable housing built for families. That's how many more kids in our schools. That's how much more, investment in our community and, seeing ourselves thrive more.
So there's power in the people power. I mean, the public meetings are key. And I think that's what we've been promoting, open meetings. And I appreciate that question, Christine.
Yeah, Byron, so I just got one. I'm gonna let one last person ask the last question, because I know you gotta go. But we definitely gotta have you on another episode, because everybody got a lot of questions. And that's one of the reasons I even reached out to you, because when Solis was alderman, every time I try to ask him a question, he always had his daughters in front or his staff, and I hate that shit, But I'm glad you actually respond to people. So I'm gonna let Francis, do you wanna ask the last question for the alderman?
Well, actually, I have a question, Byron, especially with all the violence that's going on in the community, especially recently with the shooting that happened the other day. There's so many cameras here in Pilsen that every time a crime is committed, it's like when you tell the police officers, hey, there's a camera right here, why don't you check it? Every time they say, oh, they don't work. They don't work. Somebody needs to be held accountable for that, because honestly, people are getting shot left and right. And I know everybody's aware that this happened the other day. Some shooting on Oakley over there, but there's cameras in the area. We have cameras everywhere. I think that the police should stop what they're doing and take a good look at them, because they're visible everywhere. I don't think there's any excuse for any officer to say, oh, we can't, or we didn't see nothing, when clearly the people that have cameras on their stores could pick something up. We just really need to have them look at the cameras there. Not only that, we also have a lot of homeless in the community that are living under the bridges, especially by Polino over there. I passed there today, and Winters among us. Everybody there, I feel bad for them because they have no place to go. What can we also do to help them, for this shelter? Because shelters in the community of Pilsen, there's one on Canal, there's one, but that's in Little Village on Rockwell and Cermak. And where can we direct people that need somewhere to go? Because obviously we see them everywhere, and they matter too,
Certainly. So I'm gonna just, because you have two questions. So the first question is on homelessness. The other one is on violence, right? On cameras, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think that's what I started the conversation. I don't know if you heard the beginning about police accountability, right? I'm a big supporter of making sure that we have community control of the police. So,
CPAC.
which is CPAC, is the Chicago
Police Accountability Council.
Police Accountability Council. And I think that that is an ordinance that will allow the community to get responses from the police. And I think until we have that kind of accountability, and I feel the frustration of the residents when they come and ask a question and they believe that they almost feel that they don't have to answer to us. I tell you that's a bad culture, that is a bad process, and it's not going to help anyone. I think it's important that we are accountable, especially when they receive $1.8 billion in the budget of their city is going towards police. There's no institution, there's no organization that operates without accountability. They act with impunity and did not feel that they have to give reports to the community. So I agree. So that's what I think that bill is critical, so that we can hold them accountable and make sure that they respond to the community when there are issues.
So for example, under CPAC, if the cameras weren't working, you could actually, they would have to come to a meeting and they would have to answer you, or else you could elect someone who goes and, like, you could run for the Civilian Police Accountability Council and demand answers. And actually, if people don't fix it, you could, you know, get some other leadership. Maybe you know someone better in the police department who would actually respond to you, who would actually get those cameras fixed. You could run for that seat and actually have the oversight yourself, so that it wouldn't, but right now you have there's no way to have that accountability happen when it's totally under mayoral control, which is billionaire control.
Yeah, that's an important part. That's what we look when we have public meetings, when there's accountability, people know what's going on so that we can hold them accountable. If there's no answers, and I tell you, even in my case, when I have asked questions, when I say, well, what's going on? Yeah, we'll get back to you. You know, and then who's holding them accountable? Sometimes. You know, sometimes and I have filed complaints directly, you know, and I have filed investigations, so they do answer. So, and I'm not afraid of the FOP or whoever that is, because our community deserves to be treated with the same dignity and respect as anybody else. But again, we need not only the one-offs and confrontation, you know, but we need a legislation that allows the residents to have these answers. The other thing about homelessness, I think you made a great point. The other thing about homelessness, one of the things that this is pre-pandemic, we knew that this was going to be a huge, huge issue. One of the plans, and I've been one of the aldermen who worked with the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, there was a bill, and it was a really great proposal for exactly what you're asking, for a $12 million allocation so that we can create more emergency housing. I made very clear that every caucus should be getting behind that if we actually talk about change and have some humanity for what we see to our neighbors. The Latino caucus, the Progressive caucus, took it upon as an important part of the negotiation table. The mayor, unfortunately, decided that that's not an important priority. So the lack of funding, right, to your point, if we don't have the funding to create those spaces, right? I tell you, today I just was talking with some neighbors because they're working with they have a homeless situation. They said, look, I want to help, but you know, what do? I mean, I may be able to offer a unit, you know, I may be able to help out, but the other part is the mental health component. The other part that we have a lot along the issue of homelessness is the issue of mental health. You know, we want to help the person to make sure that they get back on their feet. But if the city is not willing, and just today I had a conversation with the commissioner, the same commissioner who was telling me that it was fine, that we don't need more funding.
That's a city commissioner.
The city commission.
That's appointed, not.
Yeah, that's the appointment, the commissioner department, the Department of Family and Social and Family Services. That they were saying that in committee that they were fine, that they have enough resources. The minute that we make a call and say, well, we need assistance, there's no resources.
So in the committee hearings, they would say, you know, Byron, as the alderman, gets to ask them questions about the budget. He can say, you know, because he wants the 12 million for the homelessness funding, right? So he can go to the commissioner and the hearing in public and say, don't you need more money for homelessness? And the commissioner said, because they're appointed by the mayor, the commissioner said, oh no, we have enough resources to handle all the problems in the city. Now, post-budget, he's like, well, I've got a problem and I need some resources to help this person who has mental health issues and yada yada with the homelessness situation. And suddenly, like, he needs to fight for, like, resources, and we don't, if we had 12 million, then every alderman saying, hey, I have a serious situation with a homelessness issue, they would have enough resources and staff to address that.
Yeah, and I guess a great, Francis, I'd love to connect with you where now what we came to do, which is unfortunately go to nonprofits, put our own resources, trying to, because we want to make sure that we have a humane, situation where we assess, we have mental health services and housing. But when that's not enough, right? There's a huge issue, over 80,000 homeless residents across the city, yet not a penny more went from last budget to this budget after the pandemic. It was a bad budget. It was a bad budget.
And to reflect on that $12 million thing, like the mayor added $2 or $3 million to her own mayor office budget this year. She spends over $1 million on her own PR. She has 12 staffers who do her press, okay? And meanwhile, she couldn't, and then we did $90 million for police brutality, an additional $90 million for police brutality cases in this, but then we couldn't find $12 million for this. So budgets are moral statements. When you're spending $100 on candy bars for your children and you won't spend $12 for broccoli for your children, what kind of a mayor are you, So that's the type of thing, like, as she thinks she works for billionaires, and we need to remind her that she works for the people.
All right, so I'm gonna do my closing remarks, Sigcho. So thank you for actually accepting our interview and, getting, question and answer by the community. I'm pretty sure they got a lot more questions, and so we'll definitely want to have you in future episodes or every week. Depends on your time. I'm actually gonna make a poll to ask people like when's the best time and day, so we could like not interrupt our football time or family time. You get me? But yeah, so thank you for joining us. I don't know if you're still gonna stick around because I know you had something to do at 8. So thank you, and we're gonna continue with the rest of the segment. All right.
Thank you so much, everybody. Pleasure to talk to all of you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next we're gonna talk about local school councils. We actually have 2 of the candidates that actually ran for election and they won. So I'm gonna start off with the veteran, Rosa,
congratulations.
You wanna talk about introduce
you.
yourself, talk about it. Tell us more like about local school councils, like why are they important? Why did you run and how long you been doing it?
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Rosa Esquivel. I've been involved in the community for the past 10 years. I first got involved like volunteering in the churches, and then Instituto del Progreso Latino, Casa Michoacán, and yeah, a lot of different places here in the community, and finally Pilsen Alliance, which I've been there for the past 6 years. Yeah, so I just want to tell you a little bit of what happened to me with CPS and why I got involved in education, or that's part of one of my passions, right? So I have a child who is on the spectrum of autism. Luckily he has mild autism. However, when I first when he first started school, I took him to evaluate him. I took all the paperwork to the school, and what happened is I didn't get the help that he needed, and I had to fight for the help for 4 years. That was like 4 years fighting with me, by myself and my husband. I didn't know my rights. I had to research everything myself. And I'm a mom that speaks English, right? I'm a mom that tries to get informed and thinking about my experience, right? Like, why would it take me 4 years in order for my kid to get the help? I started seeing the way CPS works and how they do their stuff, right? It wasn't until I actually went and told the principal that we were going to bring lawyers to the school, and that was the only way we got the help that he needed. And I think it's unfortunate that happens, right? Because a lot of the children, they suffer, like my son, he suffered from self-esteem, you know, like he will cry, he will like feel, he will tell me that he felt dumb, you know. And so it was really hard as a family to get the help, and that was part of the reasons that I started to get involved in the community, right? So he started going to Benito Juarez High School, and one of the things that at the beginning, because of his IEP and everything, I asked the principal, I mean the people that enroll him, to please not put him in ROTC because he was not going to be able to deal with the stress, right? And the first day we find out that he is enrolled in ROTC. And that was like one of the first things that I asked, right? It wasn't until I had to go to an LSC meeting and we fought that, right? However, I noticed a lot of the things in the LSC, you know, the LSC will not let parents talk, you know, like there's like a 2 minute and that's it, you know. I feel like sometimes you need more than 2 minutes to talk about these things, right? So that's part of the reasons that I ran. I felt like a lot of the LSC people were not really giving a voice to the community, you know, and they were more like a yes people to the principal, right? And so I started researching and I decided to run for LSC. The first time that I ran, it was kind of hard because it was very political in a way. However, I think that when you run with your heart and you really have the interests of the people and the interests of the community at heart, I think people can see that, and that's what I did. I stuck to the issues. I listened to the young people and to the parents, and basically, and yeah, I won the last time that I ran as a parent with one of the biggest numbers in the history of Benito Juarez. And this time I ran as a community representative because my son already graduated. And I won again. I ran with a slate of 3 women that are amazing advocates in the community, and they also won. They also got in. So that should say a lot, you know, that yeah, when you run with your heart and interest for the community and the parents, that's what is important.
All right, and just so everybody knows, you won the for the high school local school council, right?
High school, Benito Juarez, yeah.
Can you tell them like what are your goals like this year coming up? Because I know I've seen one of your live videos where you're talking about like giving students a chance to like kind of like focus on what they actually like, not on what we force them to, you know?
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed that is happening in a lot of schools, not only Benito Juarez, but other high schools, right? A lot of the skills, the life skills classes, right? Like carpentry, out of like how do you call that? The auto shop. All those type of programs had been cut from the high schools, right? And what I was saying is that not all kids learn the same way, you know. Kids are unique. They have unique talents. And also, not every kid wants to go to college, right? Some of the kids want to have a short certificate career, you know, but something that's still going to give them an opportunity to thrive and be successful in life, right? There's other things that I would like to have, you know, like a lot of young people don't know anything about finances, right? How to open an account, how to you know, open their own businesses, you know, how to ask for loans, how to do all that stuff, right? And those are some skills that our communities, our kids don't have when they come out of high school. And especially right now when everything is technological, I have found out that a lot of our young people are not being competitive, when they join colleges because of some of those skills they need, right? Like the resume building, all the stuff that they need in order to get a job. Everything that is virtual right now, they're having a hard time to do all that, right? So I feel like some of those skills need to be brought back to the schools as well.
Okay, and I'm gonna save some questions that I have after Teresa talks. Teresa,
Okay.
do you wanna like introduce yourself? Same questions that I asked Rosa.
Oh, hello everyone. Well, I'm this is my first time that I actually run for anything. I'm a community organizer, and I also the reason why I got inspired was that I was doing work with Pilsen Neighbors Community Council, and I realized as I attended a lot of the meetings for local school council was that oftentimes parents were there, but weren't really like given the right, like the information have this, I just found that very concerning. And then again through organizing, right, and even everything that the Alderman mentioned, like everything that we're facing in Pilsen, like there's gentrification going on, there's very valid concerns, and now with the pandemic, I'm like, holy smokes, like you can be doing the work, and I think as community organizers, we're oftentimes like doing the background work, but we're not supposed to be like the main person, it's always the people that you're leading. But I felt that it was important for me to, if I live in this community and I'm organizing with parents, then it was time for me to do something. Like I said, this is the first time I ever do anything like this, and the reason why I ended up doing it was that I knew that there were many injustices because I would see it myself, and then I would also hear it from parents. And I actually ended up calling some of the parents from Orozco that I had a relationship with, and they were the ones that pushed me to do it, or motivated me to do it. So I unfortunately did not run on a slate, but I do wanna like give big shout out to all the parents that like help me out, do calls, Moy from Pilsen Alliance, and like many others like the IPO that like stood by me, and people sharing on Facebook like to come and support. I think out of the local school, like this experience, what has brought to me was that there's a lot of people in the community that still don't understand the importance of local school council, or like, but mainly this is a failure on like the principals, right? And the district, that they don't give out that information to the community. Like the residents can be able to participate whether you're a parent or not, so I'm just really excited to be a community representative for local school council at Orozco, and I know that there's a lot of the school is doing well, but there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, right? And the only way that they can be addressed is if we really like push for parent involvement and transparency. So those are some of my focuses running for local school council there.
Yeah, like, and it was your first time, right? So, like, what do you think about the election process? Was there any problems? Because I was kind of there, and I seen what happened. If you had to make a recount and everything. Can you tell us more about that? Like, what you think about the process and what happened? Like, tell them the story.
Well, that was really interesting. So, many 18th Street posting of flyers, but I think someone didn't like my face, so they were taken out. But what's really interesting, and I think it just makes me realize like how many times that might happen. I believe there were 514 local school elections this year, right? And there were many judges for the counting of the votes. And I know Orozco was lucky to have one, but just the fact that this time, like, there's mail-in voting, right? The day of the counting of votes in Ugo also, there were about 19-20 votes that were considered defective. And it just, I was there, so I was able to keep like a mental track, and I don't even know how, because my math skills are not the greatest. But I was able to keep track of that, and then after that, and that's how I ended up becoming the second representative for local school council, because the votes weren't counted correctly. But I mean, for me, that's concerning. And my question is like, is that happening in other schools? And what if I hadn't been lucky that I could like move my meetings around, or I could be able to join my meetings through my phone there? What happens to other like people that want to run for office? They just have to accept what is being told by them.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like,
for me, that's what.
Oh, sorry, because it's kind of breaking. Like, yeah, definitely, like, that people need to know that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that not all schools are fortunate enough to have an actual judge, like, count the votes, because, like, anything could happen. That's how corruption happens, you know? Like, people could just be like, oh, favoritism, I'm just going to put this person because I'm cool with them, you know? And it's like you mentioned that people were, like, ripping like, it's your first time running and you already got haters, you know? So that's crazy. But, let me see. What are your...
Maybe someone just didn't like my picture, you know? Who knows? But but I think what I want to do, like, or whoever's watching us, is, look, if you live in the community, like, get involved. My intention was win or lose. Like, I'm gonna run and I'm gonna try to get people and community involved. And I think many people got together. Some of them, like, weren't even from the area. Obviously, they didn't vote, but they were involved. They were asking questions, and they were able to vote in whatever school area, like, they were actually, like, within their boundaries, right? But I think that's something that, like, when do we ever talk about local school councils? And so many important decisions are made. Like, even what Rosa said, like, parents are not given enough time to talk, or, like, even to be involved. And then the media have to be more accessible. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Rosa, like, from your experiences.
Yeah, most definitely. I don't know if I can piggyback on some of the stuff that she's saying.
Yeah, like, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, we also went through that experience before, where the first time somebody that we supported run in the LSE, which was Byron, he actually got cheated in that election because they were throwing a lot of the ballots away, and they will not let the poll watchers see the ballots or what was in the ballots. There were like 90 ballots that were thrown away without, like, showing it to the poll watchers. So it was really, and at that time the judge that was there was part of Solis's people. So yeah, we learned from that experience. So when I ran, what we did is we called the LSC relationships and we asked for new judges. And we said, we want judges that are going to be democratic and that are going to do this process transparent. And we made sure that we got that judge, and that's what happened. We covered our backs, and that's how we learn from the experience, right? And we push for transparency and for accountability, and we got it.
Yeah, and I actually want to make like a reference to the elections. Like, this year, I actually worked as an election coordinator. I used to work as a poll watcher and passing out flyers, like, for candidates campaigning. But this time I was actually inside and I got to know the process. I'm like, they wanted me to be an election judge, but I'm like, nah, I'd rather be the coordinator, you know? And I actually made sure that none of the ballots got wasted like that. And I convinced people, I'm like, hey, make your vote count, you know what I'm saying? Like don't just because they had Sharpies, so the ink kept going through. And like the ballot scanner wasn't accepting, it kept throwing them out, and they had to redo it and redo it. There was like at least 2 occasions where they had to redo it 3 times, you know. But I definitely think that the Board of Education is a little bit corrupt, you know, like because there's a lot of instances like that, and that's the type of stuff we got to talk about, like how can we fix that kind of stuff from happening. So like me, I like to question authority. So I feel like the Chicago election people do a better job than the local school council election people, which is the Board of Education, right? So I think, and the funny part is, like, just so people know, when you say Democratic, you're not referencing to the Democratic Party. It's like literally the process of, because like, for example, the election judges, there are 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I wish there was 2 independents, but usually it's 3 and 3. But you had me, I'm an independent, you know, even though I have a like libertarian mindset, but I consider myself a free thinker, you know. So I made sure, like, hey, ain't nobody cheating on my watch, you know. And we need more people like that. They make sure, like, I don't care if you voted for somebody I don't agree with, you know, or I don't like. Like, I don't care about none of that stuff. I want your vote to count, and that's what we kind of need in the local school council from what you are, like, you know, telling me. And I got a question for Teresa. I know you're like new to the thing. Like, but do you know anything like about like what the because I know it's different for high schools and elementary schools as far as the local school council issues are. Do you already know like what some of those issues are? And like for example, you know how Rosa was talking about the high school that they're getting rid of electives like auto shop, which is kind of funny. I'll come back to you, Rosa, about that.
Ruben, do you think I can ask her about one of them?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can add other issues about Orozco, but I wanted to ask about the specific issue that they had about some of our community members not being accepted into the school. So they have a dual language program there, and it's a lot of times, you know, are the kids that only speak English. Let's say their parents are first generation immigrants, but you know, as their son or daughter has as a kid. Sometimes they might not speak Spanish that well, and they don't get accepted to these neighborhood programs that can be beneficial for our community.
Do you get the article where they talk about that program? I know it's like.
I'll let her talk about it, and I'll pull it up right now.
All right. For now, somebody got a question for Rosa. Francis, do you want to ask?
I do. Hi, Rosa. Congratulations.
Hi.
I have actually, a few questions. I can understand how you felt when you went to Benito, because I also am a mom with 2 boys who are autistic. And in the high school, getting them into the high school for the IEP, I had no help. I literally had to do it on my own, just like you, and it's nothing easy. The questions that I have for you is because Juarez, and that's where my son was supposed to go, to Juarez. As soon as I took him there, like you said, every kid has a different need. My son had so much anxiety because he's seen so many people that he shook right there. Are you helping to change that when somebody comes in from the community to register their child that has special needs, that they could be rest assured? Because when I went and I took my son, it was just like you said. They literally sat me there, had my son with me, we were talking about classes. They were throwing classes at him that he was looking at me like you could literally see in his face, I don't know, Ma. I don't know. Are the class settings more smaller at Juarez? Do they have the small settings for those who suffer from autism? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because I help out mothers in the community that are also moms with special needs with their kids. And this is important information because some of the kids can't go to Juarez because they don't know if they have the small settings for them. And not only that, they don't get the help that they need. And since you're there, will they be getting helped? You know, the parents that have the kids with special needs that go to Juarez? Because there's the barrier entre Inglés and Spanish, right? And they don't know where to go get this help at. And me, that I know English, I didn't even know either. So it was an experience that I'll never forget. And you're truly correct about the life skills that go on, because after high school, which my sons graduated high school too, they didn't want to go to college. They're like, no, Ma, can't, we don't want to go. It completely shuts down. Again, I just want to be able to give other moms the information, especially the ones that can't speak English, that don't know where to take their boys. And by the way, say hi, Jay.
Hey, girls.
that's my JJ. The question, to help them out, to give them the information that they need. And because Juarez is where they can take their children, a lot of moms, they shut down. They'd be like, no, they won't. You know what I mean? Is there any way that they can come to you? Because I'd like to touch bases with you. And as an activist in Pilsen, this is some good information to know, because there's a lot of Latina women that have kids with special needs, and they need that help. A lot of moms, they need that help. They have to go outside their community when they shouldn't have. So I'd like to touch bases with you.
Yeah, of course, definitely. I can give you my information, my email after this. Most definitely, I think part of I have made my jobs is to be an advocate, not only for the young people, but also for the parents. And that has been one of my main points when I started the LSC. Trainings for the parents, English and Spanish. They need to learn their rights. And but let me tell you something. Not only through CPS, because I actually think they don't have really good trainings. I think we can have trainings outside, other type of entities. I participate with Raise Your Hand. I participate with LSC for All, which is there's a lot of organizations that are involved in LSC for All. And I think that's part of the support that we can look for, right? For parents. When it comes to Benito Juarez, I can do so much, I keep on bugging people, even though they get mad at me, but I keep on bugging people to have this kind of help, for my son, for example, I make sure that he has his time, his minutes with the person, with the counselor, with the teacher, with the special teacher, individual, one-on-one teachings and stuff like that. But it's all about knowing your rights, right? It comes with that. And especially, like I said, like you said, there's we need a lot of teachings in Spanish, and there's not a lot of them, but I will prefer to get them outside of CPS trainings. That will be something, but definitely I can put my email in the chat, and you can copy from there, so that way you can we can keep in touch. Okay.
I just I heard your story, and I had to agree, because it was nothing easy. My son, by the way, didn't go to Benito because it was the setting for him. They wanted to put him in a class with a whole bunch of people, and he needed a small setting. So I ended up sending him to Ray Graham, which is on Cermak by Wabash. But I think that people need to know, the parents that are going through this, that they get the help that they need. So thank you so much for that. And I definitely want to, keep contact with you about this, because I think this will be great for the community, that everybody knows that they can go somewhere, even have some type of meeting somewhere, even to let them know. Because like you said, we're struck with COVID, everybody's staying at home, and we need to, as parents with special needs, because no matter what, we're going to have to be the ones to be there to help them and let them know that they can make it, especially with that. again, I just want to reach out to a lot of moms there. So yes, thank you. I appreciate that, Rosa.
Okay, my email is on the chat, so you can copy there and so you can back. Okay.
And, for those that sorry, for those that can't see the Zoom chat, her email is you want me to say your email, Rosie? Before I say, it's ROSYBELL77@gmail.com. I will also post it on the Facebook live chat, so anybody who has children that go to Juarez, they could contact you. And so I want Johnny to ask Teresa about the Orozco article that we got showing on the screen. Johnny, you want to ask?
Yeah, so basically you had a lot of parents that were advocating for to expand the selective enrollment gifted program within Orozco. And that's one of the schools that have a dual language gifted program here in the city.
Like, can you tell them more about
currently, yeah, so currently there's 530 students enrolled, or at least from what I saw, right? And there's about 290 students in the gifted program. So in 2008 was when the wall-to-wall expansion happened. And for me in particular, as a undocumented immigrant and English learner, that program meant a lot, like, to the community, right? Because it gave priority to Spanish speaker students. Now, what happened in 2018 is that it's opening up for others. And the issues that parents are saying is that, pues no se está viendo, right? Like, they're not seeing that they're able to enroll their kids into the school. So for me, at least as a community representative, like, it's a different experience than, let's say, Rosa, right? Or other people that have asked questions, because I'm not an actual parent. So one of the things that I am proposing, or that I want to do before even we start with the school year, is that I want to do a community forum, or like an Orozco parent forum, and invite parents to share their like testimonies and create a program, a plan around that. Because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions, you know, still. And I think the best way is for us to really engage more into that conversation. Because there was support from parents for that program to happen, but there's like a missing piece happening right now. I don't know if I answer your question right now.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just like, since you're in the local school council for Orozco, I remember, like, there's a post that I'm gonna share with you later on, so you could like see what people said about like this specific article. Like, people do want the program to be more inclusive, to like allow more people, like you know how Rosa was talking about letting people choose like what classes they actually want to take, what programs they want to participate in. Like, if people want to join the program, might as well let them, you know? Like, there's no reason for telling them no. Like, I mean, resources are a thing, but sometimes it's better to just let people reach their full potential, but stay interested and educating themselves. Because like, that's one of the things I was going to talk about that you mentioned, Rosa, about the auto shop. I remember that I wanted to take auto shop in my sophomore year, and they're like, oh, well, you've been doing bad grades. I don't get me wrong, I fucked up in freshman year, you know? I was partying too much, all kinds of stuff. Even the teachers got mad at me for even showing up. Like, you still got the like you know what I'm saying? Like you still, like, how do you expect to pass, dude? Like, what are you doing here? I'm like, my bad, shit. But like, you saw how I became interested. I'm like, oh, I want to join the football team. They're like, oh, well, you need to have good grades. Like, what the fuck? You know, like, that's what I want to do. Like, you want me to keep me in the school? You better let me join the football team. And then I'll probably do better, you know what I'm saying, like, and other things. But they try to make it seem like we're, oh, get good grades and we let you do this. Like, nah, let me do that and maybe I'll get good grades. How about that, you know? But anybody else got questions so before we move on?
I agree. I agree with you on that, Ruben. And I think that's part of the reason that a lot of our youth, you know, choose the streets, right? Because they're not being engaged properly, right? And they don't they're not being given incentives, right? Like, in order to do whatever they want to do. Another thing that happened, and I don't know if you, like right now, it is required for every single student to prove that they have enrolled in college in order to graduate. That's one of the requirements that, and I think Ram Emanuel made that law, right? Where you have to enroll to colleges in order to prove that you're going to, in order to prove that you're going to college, and that's a requirement to graduate. Like, why do kids need that, right? I don't think that should be a requirement. But yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying.
And I want to add to that. Ruben, I do want to add to that. I think engagement, like for you, like you said, you were a freshman, right? Like starts from elementary school, you know? And even like what's going on right now, like, let's be real, like kids are struggling a lot with the online learning. Our parents have not been working since March, you know? There's a big increase in domestic violence. Like such a low turnout in like people voting for LSC, and just people are jaded, tired, and CPS is a system that has historically oppressed our communities, you know. I'll give you an example. Just last year, I was able to organize with a group of parents to win the first dual magnet school, which is Whittier here in Pilsen. That took 5 years for them to be able to get a bus. 5 years. That is problematic, you know. And some of the meetings, and I'll say it publicly because it happens, and the Alderman's witness of, they sent a Latina representative for the board, and she told the parents that she would recommended them to learn English. She gave them a free English class for them to learn the terminology from CPS, right? This is to a group of immigrant parents, right? And I'm giving you an example because this is the way CPS sees our parents, like uneducated or like they're not engaged. Let me give them something and shut them up, right? This is the problem, issues that parents need to be involved, you know. But it's like kids, we need to see what they're interested in, first of all, you know. Address that their mental health is affected at the moment. That the online classes are like, the teachers are struggling, the students are struggling, you know. But also assess that like parent engagement has always failed from CPS, and now more than ever, you know. The mail-in voting is problematic, what happened right now, and just the whole thing, it was a mess. And that's why, like, it all comes down, you know. You have to start from elementary and then build up to high school, like where Rosa is, and then that's why we're losing so many of our kids. That's why there's such a high dropout rate, you know, because we're not studying with the foundation.
Yeah, and just to like, so we can move on to the next segment. I just want to do my little closing remarks about the local school council. We definitely need to like have like other representatives, you know, like you and Rosa, to join us more often, so you could update us weekly about what's going on in local school councils, what you talk about, because a lot of people don't attend them, you know. A lot of people don't even know that the local school council exists, and then they wonder why they pay property taxes, you know. But we definitely need to talk more about local school councils and what they do, what they can do, and pretty much what the problem is. The problem is, for those that don't know, is the Board of Education. They're the ones making all the decisions because they're like pretty much, they give them too much power, you know. They're supposed to be independent, but in reality, they're, I got a lot of opinions about that, but we'll keep talking about it weekly about that, because that's definitely something we need to talk about in the community, especially since the rents are going up for a reason, you know what I'm saying? And something has to do with what the Board of Education budget requires. You know, they claim, oh, we need more money. We need more money. Why do you always need more money every year? You know what I'm saying? But we'll definitely keep talking about that. And I want to give Ugo the chance to speak now. Sorry for the long delay, Ugo. And Javier, I know you're still waiting too. Ugo, you want to introduce yourself and talk about what the 25th Ward IPO is, and anything else you want to share?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hola a todos. Dajahao. My name is Ugo Okere. I am the chair of the 25th Ward IPO. The 25th Ward Independent Political Organization is an anti-capitalist organization situated in the 25th Ward. We strive to build working class power, and we're trying to build a society based on equity and need. And so we fight for things like housing for all. We fight against gentrification. We fight for a safe, sustainable environment, and an actual justice system that works for an actual justice system and economy that works for the many and not the few. And so I'm really happy to be here and talk about the work that the 25th Ward IPO does. And I want to thank Ruben and Juan for having us on.
Definitely. I wanted to ask you because I know like Sam sent me one of the posts like so they could join. I definitely subscribe to it because I know a lot of people, they criticize the 25th Ward IPO as being only Democratic just because most people vote Democrat in the community. Right. But the thing is, like, that's why I'm joining. You know, I consider myself an independent, but I'm actually a member of the Libertarian Party, so I'm definitely gonna try to provide like my input as a Libertarian Party and as an independent myself. You get me? So yeah. Do you have like the link or like where they could sign up to join the organization? And where like, do you just want to talk about that, you or Sam?
For sure. Sam, if you could put the link in the chat, that would be fantastic. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about what you mentioned. You talked about how you're a libertarian and how, the IPO gets criticism for being democratic. What I would say first and foremost, as I mentioned in the beginning, this organization is an anti-capitalist organization. What we're trying to do is fight to build working class power and make sure that the needs of the most vulnerable and the needs of the working class people of this ward and around the city are met. Because we look beyond red and blue. That's why we're called the independent political organization. Because when you're thinking about political parties, we have to remember that the vast majority of the political parties in this city, the state, and this country represent capital. They represent the wealthy. They represent the powerful. And that's not what we're about. That's not what we ever have been about. We engage in work like lifting the ban on rent control, right? To make sure that that landlords can't arbitrarily raise rents and push out people who have been living in neighborhoods for a very long time and further gentrify communities like Pilsen or Chinatown or Ablo homes. We're engaging in fights like running candidates for local school council. Like we endorsed Rosa and Teresa Contreras, who were both on this podcast. We endorsed Byron Sigcho Lopez for Alderman of the 25th Ward and then for committee person of the 25th Ward. And these were all, things that we did outside of the Democratic Party because we were trying to fight against a machine. We were trying to fight against capitalism. We're trying to fight against the powerful and the wealthy. And we're not doing it with a party. Something that's actually interesting, the alderman of the 25th Ward is also the Democratic committee person of the 25th Ward. And what that means is that he technically represents the Democratic Party here in the 25th Ward. But when he got that seat, he told us that that committee person seat will be for the IPO, the Independent Political Organization of the 25th Ward. Therefore, making it so that we operate from a base of building working class power and not simply building up the Democratic Party. I serve actually as the Deputy Democratic Committee person, and everything that I have done in that seat and everything that I have done, or that this organization has been in the vein of helping the working class and pushing for the working class.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I kind of wanted you to like explain further, because when you say anti-capitalist, like the definition is pretty much my definition myself, and I'm a libertarian, so that's my definition of what what you really mean by anti-capitalist. You get me? Like a lot, like let me give you my opinion on based on what you said, right? Like for example, if people actually read the libertarian platform at lp.org/platform, they'll realize that we're actually like for the people, for the individual, the smallest minority. You get me? And that's actually compatible. Like what everything you said is compatible with that platform. And that's kind of like why I want to like let people know, like, yeah, join it. You know, they are independent. You know, I think anybody who supports individuals, the people, you know, they technically are libertarian. And even people that are against corporations. Corporations are what I call collectives. You get me? Collectives have no rights. They don't have the same rights as individuals. And that's literally what the libertarian platform talks about. And so that's why technically we agree with literally the definition of what you mean by anti-capitalist. Other people, they like to just read what the words say and automatically have a million definitions, like according to like whatever their prejudice of that word is. Like a lot of people have different meanings for the word socialist, for example. Like if they hear you say the word anti-capitalist, they'll automatically say, oh, well, he's this type of socialist or that type of socialist. Like they'll say all kinds of stuff. Like, do you want to say anything like as far as like about what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Let me take a moment to kind of define anti-capitalism and what we mean here. Right. When we need to understand first that we live in a capitalist country, an imperialist capitalist country, and basically what that means is that at the top of everything is profit. We, as a country, we're focused so much on the private wealth and the private and you know, those who operate through the sphere of the market and through a private economy to make sure that those who are wealthy and powerful stay wealthy and powerful, and that we can maximize profits for the wealthy and the powerful. And when I say anti-capitalist, it's about pushing that kind of notion and that way of thinking and that way of viewing an economy and a political ideology away. The reason that we're not defining it as any one particular tendency on the left, for example, like I personally identify as a socialist, right? You may have folks in the organization who identify as just liberals. You may have folks in the organization that identify as, you know, as communists. You may have folks in the organization that identify as a million and one different tendencies and political ideologies, but at the core of the framework needs to be an understanding that what we need to do is push back and fight and eradicate this method of viewing our economy that is focused on competition rather than cooperation, that is focused on tearing people down with racist imperialist structures and pushing for a system that actually works for every single person and not just a handful of people. And so we do that when we are fighting electorally, right? Like we are pushing to push back against this, to push back against the notions of capital. Right now, what we want to do is tax the rich. We want to make sure that the rich have to pay their fair share. And so that's why we hired on fellows like Nicole Reyes and Colton Havens to lead our fight to implement the fair tax. Unfortunately, the fair tax lost. But in the 25th ward, over 70% of people supported the fair tax amendment in the last election. We were pushing to increase voter turnout. We got it to be nearly on par with the citywide voter turnout. We were able to toss Tooman, Judge Tooman, an absolutely terrible judge at the county level, who you know, feeds the system of capitalism by you know, locking up young people and making it harder to release them during COVID-19. And so, you know, all of this different things that we're doing, we you know, the framework is fighting back against capitalism. And, you know, again, we're an organization that pushes for cooperation and pushes for building an economy, a community, a city that works for everybody and not just a handful of millionaires and billionaires.
And I know Johnny wants to say something.
Let me cut in real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Ugo, thank you for choosing our neighborhood to, you know, to be part of your home. And you know, I followed a little bit your race before, so I know you're. I'm gonna share the screen real quick.
Sure.
So I know you're a big critical of the 44th Alderman. You know, deciding to vote for the budget. So what made you transition from being a candidate as the 40th Ward Alderman, potential candidate, and now becoming kind of like a community activist in a different neighborhood? And how can you relate and tell people that don't know you? They probably said, you know, well, he's not from the neighborhood. How can you bring those people in to make a coalition within the 25th ward to not only unite, but, advocate for them?
Yeah. So, for folks who don't know, I ran for Alderman, ran for Alderman of the 40th Ward back in 2018 and 2019 against Alderman Patrick J. O'Connor, who had been there for Alderman for 36 years. It was a very tough fight. What we were able to do is push the conversation to the left. Our campaign was endorsed by Chicago Democratic Socialists of America, National Democratic Socialists of America. We were a premier campaign around the city, and we focused on equity, this idea of interconnected struggle, and co-governance, and making sure that that the people in the aldermen are working side by side. We were unfortunately unable to pull it off. But I'm still extremely proud of the campaign that we ran, and I, bring those same values with me as I'm here in Pilsen today. But in terms of how we might bridge that gap from me being not born and raised in Pilsen, for example. Prior to running for office, I used to actually organize in the Pilsen neighborhood back in 2016. I was co-chair of a youth community organization called Fuerza del Sol, which was a part of Pilsen Neighbors Community Council. And during that time, we were fighting to make sure that we could pass a Clean Dream Act, and we were trying to fight around issues of violence prevention in the city of Chicago. And so I was there for about a year. When I was there, this is actually where I met a host of other community organizations, activists, and actually the now Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez, but back then he was executive director of Pilsen Alliance. And so I had done, years worth of work in the Pilsen neighborhood, and I fell in love with the neighborhood. I fell in love with the people, with the activism, with the working class struggle that was here. I fell in love with the community. And, after I had finished my race in the 40th Ward, I actually took a lot of my campaign of volunteers, and if Byron was here, he'd be able to prove that. I actually took a lot of folks. We came down here to knock doors for Byron. And we supported each other all the way through the initial election and then the runoff election, and really proud to have helped be a small part of that win. And so after our race, and after, I took some time to figure out what I wanted to do next in my life, it was actually my first time that I got a big boy job, right? Like it was the first time I was getting paid a decent amount of money, and actually I was living at home. And so this is the first time I ever got to move out. And as soon as I had an opportunity to move, I realized that the place that I wanted to be, one that I could actually afford, but then the other, where I had done organizing work as well, was Pilsen. And when I came here, I was really welcomed with open arms, and it meant a lot. Pilsen Alliance, the 25th Ward IPO members, Byron Sigcho Lopez himself, members of the community that I'd worked back with in 2016, all remembered who I was. And it meant a lot to be able to come back to this and to be here with community. And I absolutely love where I am.
Yeah, so
thank you so much.
Ahead,
I was gonna say thank you so much for choosing our neighborhood, and it's as a community organizer, even you still got time to grow, because even I know Byron, it took him, he was here for years before he grew up to the position he was. And if you do want to run for alderman later on, man, it's the community of Pilsen will support you, and it comes with time. Thank you so much for choosing our neighborhood, man.
Of course, and I'm happy to be here.
And I'm gonna come in your defense, Ugo, about like what Johnny asked you. And that's kind of like something that Teresa mentioned earlier, that like if me, for example, if I go to another ward, obviously I'm gonna get involved because I want to get involved in my community. So that's pretty much what you did in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like you were over there, but now you're over here, so now you're gonna get involved over here, because it doesn't make sense for you to get involved over there, even though you technically still have roots over there, but now you're over here, so it makes more sense for you to be more involved over here now. So I think, like, for anybody who probably criticizes you for like they like to criticize people that do that. You get me? Like they're like, oh, he's like might be hungry for power or something. But it's not even about that. It's just the fact that we like to be engaged in our communities where we live in, because that, like, the politics of our local politics are the ones that affect us. Like the 44th Ward politics don't affect you anymore, but like now they affect you more over here because that's where you're at. But I want to talk more about the 25th Ward IPO. One thing I want to say is what is the mission of the IPO?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, at the beginning, I was talking about how we're really pushing as an anti-capitalist organization that focus on building working class power. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to organize the people of the 25th Ward to hold our elected officials accountable, number one. So that means everybody from Byron to Representative Teresa to State Senator Tony Munoz, to Congressman Chuy Garcia, to Dick Durbin, to President Joe Biden. We are here to make sure that every single one of those elected officials listens to our communities, and we want to represent them well. We're fight for things like, again, housing for all. We want to make sure that we have affordable housing, public housing all across the 25th Ward. We want to make sure that we're fighting and staving off gentrification any way that we can. We want to push to make sure our communities live in a safe, sustainable environment. We want to make sure that, again, that we have a justice system that works for the many and not the few. Some of the, we have general body meetings every month that focus on different topics. That what we do is we follow this kind of idea of educate, agitate, organize, right? In order for people to be able to fight for an issue, to be organized, to be able to organize to fight for an issue, they have to be aware of the issue, that the problem is there, and they have to be aware of the solution of what that thing is, right? Because earlier we were talking about CPS funding, and we were talking about how our public education system is leaving behind the most vulnerable and people in our communities, right? One of the chief problems of that is the fact that we don't have an elected representative school board in the city of Chicago. We are the only municipality in the entire state that does not have an elected representative school board. Our school board here is appointed. And so that means that when it comes time to hold our school board accountable, right, for underfunding CPS, for privatizing our janitorial services or our engineering services or our food or anything like that as it relates to CPS, it gets a lot harder and a lot trickier because we don't have elected officials that have a direct impact on the budget. City Council does not vote on the CPS budget. The board, the Board of Education does, right? And so if we have an elected school board, we can make sure that the people that we're getting into office are like Byron, are like Rosana Rodriguez-Sanchez, are like Carlos Rosa or Jeanette Taylor, people who are actually fighting on behalf of working class people in the city of Chicago. And so, actually our next general body meeting is in 2 weeks, I believe. It's going to be on December 16th at 6:30 p.m. Please check our page at 25th Ward IPO. We're going to be talking about this exact issue, the elected representative school board, because as Laureen mentioned earlier, next month is the Springfield session will start back up again. Illinois state legislators will be charged with passing a budget amongst other things. And we need to make sure that we are fighting for an elected school board. It has already passed the House of Representatives. Now it needs to pass the Illinois Senate. And we want to be a part of that fight. We want to make sure people are educated on this kind of bill so that we can take part in it next month. So that's the kind of work that we're doing.
All right, so yeah, pretty much you're like an organization that endorses candidates that kind of agree with the community, you could say, right? Like You're not specifically choosing Democrats just because the Democratic candidates are the ones that agree more with the community than the other ones, you could say, right?
This is an organization that's entirely democratic in the sense that that's how we operate. Like we operate in a democratic fashion, not as the party, right? And so the membership is the one that makes these endorsement decisions, and it just happens that they happen to be democratic. But again, our organization does not subscribe to a party. One more thing I did want to plug is that we are in the middle of a membership drive. Our hashtag is hashtag 25 to 35. 25th Ward IPO, we're trying to get 35 members before the end of the year. Sam has posted the links in the chat to become a dues paying member, as well as sign up for our newsletter so you can know what's going on with the organization.
All right, sounds good. Like we definitely need to have you, since you're part of our ward and part of the Pilsen community, we definitely hope you'll join us every week, to give us updates about what's going on. Because it looks like, to me, it looks like the organization is pretty much here to inform the community about what the majority of the community agrees with. And so they can know where we stand on policies on a consensus, you could say,
Yeah.
And so I want to give the opportunity to give anybody else that might have questions for you about your organization. If not, so we could continue with the last segment before we wrap it up. Does anybody got questions for Ugo? Once, twice, three times. All right, Ugo. So yeah, hopefully you, Sam, and other members of your organization, hopefully, maybe I'm probably gonna become a member myself. That way.
Sign up. Hit that link.
I'm a co-sign. I'm a co-sign. They know I'm independent. They know I lean libertarian, so I'm technically independent and libertarian joining the organization. We make sure we keep it independent and redefine that you are independent and get rid of that negative criticism that you are not independent.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the co-sign. Thank you for promoting our organization. Much appreciated. And we're looking forward to having you.
Yeah, I definitely could say that you, like, based on what you said, and you know what I'm saying, and about the organization and yourself, I could literally say that is what an independent is. People might have a misunderstanding based on the words we use, like anti-capitalist. Like some people like that agree with with my ideology, they'll say, oh well, anti-corporations, anti-collectivism, pro-individualism. That's what the phrases they'll be more familiar with. But we'll talk about that more. I want to give Javier the chance to speak now from Pilsen Pod. Javier, still with us? Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, guys. Hi, my name is Javier Cervantes with Pilsen Pod. So I'm a longtime resident of Pilsen. Lived here my whole life. I'm 38 years old now. Born and raised, and we've actually just joined Pilsen Arts and Community House for our podcast. And some of the reasons why we decided to move Pilsen Pod more in this direction was I wanted to tell more of the stories of rooted Pilsen residents that have been here all their life. And there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of history here in Pilsen. There's a lot of history when it comes to the arts, our murals. Tere and Pablo are also rooted here in this community, and they're a staple. They're a staple in the artist community, and it's amazing the work they've done before when it came to Pilsen Outpost. They were there for quite a few years, and now they've moved down to 18th Street, right before Ashland. So they have Pilsen Arts and Community House. So that's basically our objective in this vlog, actually, is to tell more of the stories. And right now we have our current episode on YouTube. You guys could check us out at Pilsen Pod on YouTube. We have 2 episodes. I have 1 episode of with just me, but the next episode is with Pablo and Tere, and we're discussing. This episode was. It was enjoyable to make because I got an opportunity to speak to the small businesses in our community. But it was a little heartbreaking and sad when some of the stories that we got to hear about how our small businesses are hurting right now during the pandemic. So I really, I highly suggest folks, if you get a chance, just check it out. I interviewed 5 different business owners in Pilsen, and they all have very unique stories. And like I said, I encourage folks to jump on and check it out. And if you just like the podcast, go ahead and like it and subscribe. Just a little background on myself. I've been a community organizer with labor for over 12 years. I worked at one of the largest unions in Illinois, SEIU Healthcare, and that's actually where I got a chance to meet Pablo Ramirez. Me and him were young organizers back in 2007. And, one of the stories that I remember the most with Pablo was that we had a home care agency that we were sent out to organize. And, we didn't really know each other much. We had not really spoken much with each other, but we ended up at this home care agency, and we saw 300 people, and we looked at each other and said, wow, how are we going to handle this in-service? But from there on, me and him, tag teamed on a lot of projects with the local, and that's how we started our friendship. And later on down the road, I met Tere, and because they actually had their own, they did have an art shop, artist community group back in on 49th and Campbell almost 10 years ago. And that's kind of, I think, where the concept started, but then they started doing their own thing. So, but yeah, that's what we're doing right now. You know, we both come from organizing, we both come from labor, and we are just trying to bring of what we did on the organizing part and just talk to our small businesses, and not only small businesses, but people from the community, anybody that has a story that they want to tell. As you can see in this video, you know, I like to go out and tape this. It's produced completely. We record it, we interview folks, and then we produce a whole video. And then afterwards, we do it on Facebook. We do a Facebook watch party, and we invite people to comment. But yeah, that's basically what Pilsen Pod is. I want to encourage anybody that's listening to this that has been wanting to do a vlog or wanting to do a podcast. You know, right now is the time to do it, especially because of the pandemic. And you know, it's good to hear everybody's perspective on things. And so yeah, so that's kind of what we started doing, and we hope that folks could tune in.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and that's what I want to like mention, that the name of your podcast is called the Pilsen Pod, and a lot of people are gonna confuse like our podcast is technically officially named the L Stop according to Johnny, right? This is his podcast. I'm just a co-host. You know, I'm more like the main commentator. You know, like you ever seen those CNN things where they got people, correspondents, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, you're the color commentary, man.
Yeah, I'm the charismatic one. Johnny's the serious one, you know. And but so just so people know that when we call ourselves #Pilsen Podcast, we're just saying like because your thing is a podcast, like literally a podcast like Joe Rogan's show, you know, where it's professionally made, like, you know, transitions, like a whole directing thing, produced like a vlog or blog or, you know, video blog. Like literally what a podcast is, but with video. You get me?
Yes. Yeah.
Like just so people know what a podcast originally was, pretty much just people talking, like a whole audio recording, and now it developed into more popularized, like the way you do it. You know, where you show video. Actually, you do a better job than Joe Rogan. You know, Joe Rogan is just like two people talking with like the director changing transition and shit. You know.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. We definitely put a lot of hours behind this. Trust me, we do. But you know, from my, you know, I studied visual communications 2 decades ago, back in 2000. So I'm 38 now, but I went to the International Academy of Design and Technology, and that's what I learned, visual communication. So you know, I just wanted to put it to use, and we want to produce as best as possible content for Pilsen, because that's what it deserves. And to me, I appreciate when things are homegrown, when folks from the community are able to tell our own stories. We don't have necessarily folks from outside the community telling our stories. Let us tell our own stories, and that's what Pilsen is. That's what Pilsen Pod is about. And I appreciate what you guys are doing as well. I mean, any open forums that we could give folks to express themselves, me personally, I'm all for it. And I think everybody should take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what why I invited you to the show. You get me? So people don't think there's some kind of rivalry over the name. I'm like,
it's two different things.
I'm like, well, one's Pilsen Pod, one's Pilsen Podcast, but that's not really the name of the podcast. Like, it's technically, officially, is like Mi Hogar, the page. In the Pilsen Chicago group, introduces like the L Stop, which is technically like alternative name Pilsen Podcast, but that's just the hashtag we use to kind of like people could like use the hashtag to find us faster. They'll probably see your podcast in the middle, you know, because the Pilsen Pod, like the algorithm will read it like Pilsen Pod, and then the extra word cast, you know.
Subscribe to both of them. I mean, much love for everybody that has to. And you know what? It takes guts to do stuff like this, right? I mean, people are going to criticize you. People are going to say things, you know, that may try to discourage you. But like I said, just if it's in your gut to do it, just do it. Why not? You know, be like Nike.
Just do it. And then like, you know how somebody asked the Alderman a question about the protesting, like how does it feel? Like there's nobody, from what I know, there's nobody protesting in front of his house. We don't even see that shit. I want to see the footage. What they're talking about. You get me? I know there's nobody protesting in front of my house. You get me? So I can't really say how I feel. I feel bad. You know, I feel like I'm doing a bad job. You know, maybe I'm doing a good job if there's nobody protesting in front of my house. Maybe they don't know my address.
I'll say this much. I try my best not to get too much involved in politics. Even though I am, I try not to too much. But I want to say this. Look, it's hard to be an elected official, and it's really hard, of course, to be an alderman of a ward. You got to make a lot of decisions that may not be favorable. This ward alone has over 30,000 voters in the ward. It's a huge ward. It's one of the biggest ones in the city. So it's not easy. Trust me, it's not an easy job. It's you're doing this for more than 9 to 5, and kudos to like I said, it's not an easy job to be an elected official. I'll just leave it at that.
A question I have for you is, are you the only one, literally paying for the whole production, or is there an organization backing you up, or what's going on? Can you tell us, how you finance?
When this is just something that, I already do communication. So I already have these programs. I already have a camera. So that's something that I'm just doing on my own, as a contribution to the community. Just to, like I said, try to give art the way I present the stories back to the community. Pablo and Tere have been gracious to let me use their beautiful studio. Again, Pilsen Arts and Community House. I highly recommend you guys go check it out. As you guys see in the video right now playing, we're basically kicking it in the second floor in their gallery. Beautiful art from great artists. So like I said, we teamed up, and they allowed me to be able to record in there, and for them to be part of the podcast. They have great things to say. Again, I highly encourage folks to listen to them. Again, Pablo is an organizer, and Tere has been a staple in our artist community all over the city. She curated shows in the Mexican Fine Arts Museum. She herself is an artist. She has great works that are in the gallery. So so no, it's just we're not getting any extra outside funding. Whatever, I try to scrape up a few bucks here and there on the side, and try to do it for Facebook promoting, things like that. But like I said, it's all out of love and for Pilsen that I grew up in. And not that long ago, I saw a friend of mine. They're like, "Man, you're still here?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm still here, bro." And I'm not, I'm not gonna leave until, I gotta get kicked out, literally out of here, man. I love Pilsen. This is my home.
Shit, you already know what everybody's worried about. They're gonna tax the shit out of us, fucking raise the rent till we can't pay no more. I'm pretty sure that's most of anybody who technically can't afford it. I think you gotta make at least. It depends how you budget yourself. Like me, I base it off the 30% rule. Like my rent and bills gotta be on the 30% before taxes, and that's what I recommend everybody to do. If you can't afford let's say a $800, $1,000 apartment by your damn self, just because you want to live by yourself and tell everybody how cool you are, at least get a fucking roommate. That's what most people do. You get me? A lot of people like to criticize the gentrifiers, but they don't know that the gentrifiers are actually sharing this shit. Don't get me wrong. There's people that actually own the condos. Those are probably what they're talking about when they talk about gentrifiers. They're talking about people that literally own a condo like they own a house here. So technically, hey, ain't nothing wrong with that in a way. But I do know that people like to criticize gentrification a lot. So that's something I want to talk to you about right now. But first, I want you to tell us what else do you do besides the Pilsen pod? Because I see you did design a flyer for Rosa, or who else have you designed flyers for, or what else do you do?
Yeah, so my day job is I work with city council. I actually work at a different ward. I work in the 16th ward, so I do committee outreach, and I also do legislative work. That's my day job. But I'm also a graphic designer, so I do a lot of design work for small businesses on the side. Like I said, everything that you see on Pilsen Pod, I designed. I've done a small business. There used to be a restaurant called on 18th Street.
Yeah, the 18 Lounge.
Yeah,
right?
18. I forgot. Yeah, I did the logo. I mean, so I did the logo for them. I've done a logo for a daycare in the community. So I've done quite a few designs for small businesses here in the community, and so that's what I do. But majority of my professional life has been in community organizing with labor.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to hire you for to design the flyer for this protest rally. You might probably not don't agree with what I'm trying to do, but you know, I'm pretty much trying to get everybody who's against like the restrictions to come out and all kinds of stuff. Like I respect the decision of the people that wear the masks, you know, and the people that decide to stay home. I just want to make sure people have the option. Like you know how right now people are talking about the CPS ruling about like they're forcing the teachers and staff and pretty much the students too to go to school, and that's not like that's kind of what we don't want them to force them. We want them to be able to have the option to go, which is that's the only thing we wanted. But now they're talking about forcing people. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like me personally, I disagree with forcing people. If they don't want to go, don't let them not go and don't penalize them. You know, the teachers, let them teach. The one that want to teach online, let them teach online. The students that want to learn online, let them learn online. The staff that doesn't, like, you know, shit, I'm pretty sure they don't want to risk their family members they probably live with or stuff like that. You know, like that's something I'm gonna talk about in the next week's episode. That's gonna focus about healthcare, and I'm gonna actually like COVID-19 is the hot topic of the year, so trust me, I'm gonna share my views on that and talk about a lot of stuff like that. But what are your thoughts about that? Like what CPS is doing? Do you think it's cool for them to force the students to go, or do you think they should have options? Like I say, like if they don't want to go, don't let them, don't penalize them, don't fire them, because they're under threat that if they don't show up, they're gonna get fired, and that's fucked up in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I could say I agree with you on that. I mean, you know, me as a parent, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and you know, I'm worried about her going back. She, knock on wood, hasn't had COVID yet. I hope she doesn't at all. I hope I could still keep her protected from it. I had COVID though. My mother had COVID. My mother was in a hospital for a few weeks with COVID. So I understand how difficult this is for parents. But not only that, you got to think about the staff that's going to go into these buildings. So as we know from the science of COVID, you could be a carrier and not exhibit symptoms, but be shedding live virus. So what happens to a younger adult? I mean, I'm sorry, older adults that gets it, a senior that may get it, a custodian or a teacher that may be exposed to the virus, and then they die, right? Or they get severely sick. So I think that there's risks for children, especially those that haven't received it. But then there's also risk about the staff, the teachers, the custodians, the clerks. You know, I want people to understand that it's of course we focus on the teachers, but don't forget that there's other folks that work in these schools. You know, like my mother's a custodian. She works at CPS. I think she got COVID from even working cleaning the schools. So I can't imagine her getting COVID again. I think it might kill her. So do I agree with you that it should be a choice? Absolutely. I think we should not even open yet until we have a good grasp of this virus, and has the vaccine been given out enough where people could feel a little more protected. And I think people are very hesitant about the vaccine as well. You know, I talked to my mother the other day. I was like, "Are you going to get the vaccine when it's ready?" She told me in Spanish, "Oh, no lo voy a tomar." Hell no. She says, "Nunca." You know, she's very hesitant about that. And that's that she already had COVID. So I would think she would have jumped at the opportunity to get the vaccine, but she said, "No, hell no." So it's going to be difficult, but you know, I do understand it's difficult for kids to learn right now in this setting too. My daughter's in 8th grade. Is a very important year for her. And I would want her to be in class right now, because, you know, we have to be looking at high schools. We gotta, you know, we just did a virtual high school tour with Shy Arts, because she's an amazing artist, my daughter, and I pray that she gets selected for Shy Arts. But so we did a virtual host yesterday at Shy Arts, and you know, it was great and everything, but she's missing that experience though, where I wish she would have had to be able to go to these schools, you know, walk around the schools, look at the lockers, you know, that same experience that, you know, most of us had. So it's a very difficult choice. It's a very difficult decision to look at. You know, me personally as a parent, and having my mother with COVID, and me having COVID, and it hit me hard too. I was pretty sick myself. I don't want to risk people, because but you know, I think a choice maybe we just maybe delay it a little longer until we could feel a little more secure about this pandemic. But no, it's a very difficult decision for everybody, for parents, for kids, for everybody.
Yeah, and I think Johnny wants to say something before I ask you more questions. Johnny, what you want to say?
Oh yeah, that's one of the things. Want to make sure we have all sides, and if we do have health thing next week, man, I'm gonna shoot Alex a message to see if he's not to do a little bit, share a little bit of time, because a lot of people don't get a misconception about taking.
He's drinking a tiki in Hawaii.
No, but yeah, well, somebody along his avenue of expertise, with giving shots or what it entails, because a lot of people have misconceptions of, all these shots that they're getting, and it's like we have to make sure we take away some of that and have somebody that knows about it to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing I was gonna ask you, Javier, so like it's a personal question. I don't want to ask you no crazy ass questions, but like how you're talking about your daughter missing out on things that you wish she would have been able to experience.
Yeah.
Like you personally, like I want your answer. Would you have sent her if the option was available?
Right now, I'm leaning that I'm not gonna send her, but I need to find out how is that gonna affect her for next year, for her high school year. And I gotta get answers from CPS on that. I mean, if it's gonna completely negatively affect her, I gotta figure out a way that So if it's gonna negatively affect her, I might have to make that choice that she's gonna have to go. And I'm gonna be worried every single day. When she's there, and not mainly because it's her 8th year and how important this is to her and how hard she's studied, and I mean last year she got straight A's because she wants to go to a good high school. So I can't throw away all her work that she did either. So like I said, it's a tough decision. I hope that if kids if there's a choice, but it doesn't necessarily negatively affect them, and then maybe there's a way they can still virtually learn. I'm going to definitely look into that. But if it turns to a case where it's going to negatively affect it for next year, I'm going to have to make the tough decision. Then more than likely she's going to have to go, and I'm going to do everything I can that she understands how to take precautions. And I pray that the school is on their P's and Q's when it comes to protecting our kids. It's just the tough decisions that we have to do as parents. It's just not an easy decision at all whatsoever. So, but to answer your question, I would lean to having her go because of how important next year is to her.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what a lot of parents pretty much missed out on, like, come on, you got like certain people or certain schools from other states, cities. Like there's a lot of things people could say like, oh, well, difference in density, difference in population, difference in that, difference in this. But it all comes down to them pretty much like messing with people's liberty. You get me? And as like a pro-liberty activist, I would want your daughter to have that option to go. And not only that, like, if she don't want to go, don't force her either. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. You get me? And that's kind of what I'm saying about the CPS thing, that people should have the option to go or not go. And they should know, like, people that are probably thinking about it, and they should know that technically CPS does give you the option to, like, back down, like, opt out of going. You get me? Yeah. So let's see how that plays out, because they didn't really explain that at the Board of Education meeting. I was in downtown when that happened, when they were like protesting or whatever, like, but the protest was inside like the meeting. I thought it was going to be outside, but it was actually inside, so I didn't really get to record any footage or ask people questions. But pretty much what I found out was that they ended up being in favor of the parents that want to return. And I think something that has to do with that, though, has to do with Board of Education doesn't really get funding from the federal government or the state government unless people are literally in class. And that's kind of like what people need to know, that's kind of why they keep pushing it. And they want to force teachers to go, because they know if they don't force teachers to go, they get less funding, because less people, they physically need a student in that classroom. You get me? And that's kind of what has to do with it. But I'm going to save that topic of CPS probably for another episode. For now, we'll keep getting more informed about it so we could kind of like construct our opinions better. But I just wanted to share that. Let me see what other questions I have, because I want to wrap it up already, because it's been longer, and I know we had a couple.
We still got more. These guys got more speakers still, brother.
No, you're actually the last one. We're supposed to have Eric, Pilsen artist. She's part. I don't know why she didn't end up logging in, but
okay.
like there's like some Pilsen artist contest going on that starts technically in late December, but there's a lot of like artwork already showing up. She
I'm gonna
posted
share
like
real quick.
go ahead, Johnny, put it on the screen so they can know what I'm talking about. And but yeah, like she was supposed to speak. Like I'll tell you kind of what she was gonna say. Like she was gonna try to like get us to vote for it. Like the one she made, like she made one. I think it's only on 18th Street where the things are up, you know. And
Okay,
I forgot the
sweet.
name of the store where she put it up. I think it's like something with a Z.
Nice.
And so like the contest technically, like people already put up their things, but I think like the contest is actually from the 28th to like January something. So you see like that, the one we're showing right now on the screen, that's the one she pretty much made. Oh yes, Zarai. I don't know how you pronounce that. Zarai. That's a store where she made that.
Yeah, those
that
are
artwork.
so they have different numbers, and as you stop by, you can use your phone, you know, put it by the thing. If you have a little scanner on your phone, you scan it, and you can vote. You can vote there.
So
And you can look at the other arts. If you have some time, I know we're social distancing, but you can take your family with you, and then you can what you can do is have some time, maybe have a little lunch, or sometimes for me a little liquor, but you can stop by and do something with your family.
Yeah,
so
like
I want to add just Sarai Imports. I interviewed them in the last episode I did for Pilsen Pod. So, just I'm gonna throw a quick little plug in there. You guys get to hear directly from the owners and their history of them in Pilsen and how they support small families in Mexico because of the business they have here. So, yeah, amazing work right there. And I encourage you guys to listen to the podcast so you can listen to the actual owners of Sarai Imports.
Yeah, that's Sarai Imports is the #1 store with and their artist that they're displaying is Erica Berwoman.
She's the one that was supposed to join us today.
Every store in the ESDC has their own little storefront where they have displaying their art, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, show them the flyer of the website, Johnny, the one she showed. Yeah, there you go. So
nice.
What does it say? So you see, like it says the dates. I think people could still participate on it. Because when I voted for her, like when she posted it, I supported her and giving her my vote since she asked for it. All you got to do is ask, and we'll help you out. And she was technically one of the only ones that had cause it got the name and the address. Like it took me a while. I had to go back to her post. Like, oh, she did post like that. I was like wondering what number she was. And like some artists actually have the photo on the website. So I don't think all of them know that you could actually post a photo on the actual website where you actually do the voting, which is the ESDC website. Do you got the link, Johnny, where did she post it? Like, so that you show the website, how it looks and how the voting process is? I think it's going to be on the post. So that link right there. Yeah. So you could click on that link, ESDC. Chicago.org/Pilsen Christmas Windows Walk, and it pretty much tells you right there, all the information you need, how to vote, the artists that have participated. And
yeah, it tells you all the stores. So it tells you right now we have 13 stores, I believe. So it's quite a little bunch.
Yeah, definitely. And now that we're talking about Pilsen and artists, we actually got 2 of Pilsen's artists working on a mural right now. They're trying to finish it up before it gets colder. We're definitely going to have them after they're done because right now they're trying to finish it. I already talked to Pablo. He said that once they're actually done with it, they'll take more interviews. Right now their focus is on finishing the mural, which is on the wall next to Don Pedro's Carnitas on 18th Street. And so, yeah. And I want to talk about the future episodes that we're doing before we wrap it up. So next weekend, we're going to focus on healthcare, nutrition, anything related to that. And our special guest is going to be Commissioner Alma Anaya. She's already booked. She's going to give us a bilingual presentation in English and Spanish, like a 15-minute presentation about what she's going to talk about. And just to give everybody a heads up, a preview is going to be about the healthcare. Right now we got to sign up for what they call Obamacare. Sign up on the healthcare marketplace. I don't know the link by memory, but I'm gonna start posting more articles about that because the deadline is the 15th. And what she's gonna talk about is pretty much like who qualifies now, because the state passed a legislation that allows people that are undocumented or whatever you want to call them, immigrants they're not permanent residents, that are 65 years or older, they qualify now, and there's more people that actually qualify that she's gonna talk about, and and let people know. So it's 2 days before the actual deadline, but I think you're still able to apply for it even after that deadline. So she's gonna inform us, she knows more about it, so she's gonna let us know what's going on with that. And we also have a music episode on December 20th coming up, and to end the year, I'm still in talks right now and negotiations as far as contacting and waiting for responses of other people that are gonna be guest speakers in the next few weeks. But I'm trying to save the last episode to be a government episode. I'm trying to have our Congressman Chuy Garcia, Teresa Antonio Munoz, Lightfoot, and Governor Pritzker. So and if possible, maybe even Trump. I'm still working on it. He's still technically the president. You get me? But I also want to have. I'll probably get Biden next year if he actually wins on December 14th. But right now, the popular vote does say that he won. So we'll see what happens with that. The December 14th, the Electoral College's vote. Illinois did certify the results a day before the deadline. So it's official that Biden won in Illinois. And I think based on the official certifications, Biden has won already. He does got the most electoral votes based on the popular vote certifications. Just so people know, California is the one that helped them kind of get the advantage right now. So most of the time the electors do what the state forces them to do, but technically just for people that don't know about this, the Electoral College is supposed to decide on their own. You get me? The popular vote is more like a reference, but the way the state laws are set up right now, since the Constitution does allow them to kind of manage the elections however they want, they're technically supposed to vote based on what the popular vote was. So, for example, in 2016, the majority of the people awarded Trump the votes. That's why they ended up voting for him. The only problem is they didn't make Hillary Clinton the VP, because technically the second place, the second person that gets the most electoral votes is supposed to be the vice president. A lot of people don't know about this. There's something I'm probably going to talk about. Let me see, when is the 14th? Sure. Yeah, I'll probably just make a reference to it, talk a little bit more about the results, and educate people a little bit more about that, and I'll show you the sources that explain what I'm talking about. Other than that, hopefully everybody stays safe. Believe it or not, I do tell you, I recommend you wear a mask. If it causes you trouble, I recommend you don't wear it. And like I said, it's all about options. And practice social distancing. If you see somebody coughing, try to stay 6 feet away from them. And that's pretty much all the recommendations I can say. Anybody else got anything they want to say before we wrap it up?
Thank you all. Be blessed. And we're gonna end this. And thank you all for for showing up. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for the invite and the opportunity.
All right, Javi, you kind of the Javi number 2. You're kind of quiet over there, buddy. Vicky. Who else is still with us? Fatima. Oh wait, Vicky left already. So nobody else got nothing to say? Javi number 2.
All good. Have a good night.
All right. Sorry for the long episode. We had technical difficulties thanks to Johnny. We were all logged in 10 minutes before you, Johnny. You owe us an apology in public. But yeah, so hopefully, what I'm saying, we keep doing it better and better. I think we are doing a better job improving each time. Yeah, enjoy your night. Enjoy your Sunday night. And I think the Bears lost, so anybody's wondering. That's all I got to say.
All right, guys.
We unbiased. We untapped. Yo, God. My neighborhood. Pilsen. Chicago. Little village. Profit plant. Yo, Elko. Yo, God, Chicago.